Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Brea Season 2, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So the title of this episode, I think, is Stampede. So because of that, we'll start off with the Stampede situation. That, obviously in the aftermath of, oh yeah, Tomet got away, and Scott's kind of nervous because it's like, cool, I let him go, and Ty's saying like, oh, don't worry, Tomet will get punished as well as the traitor who let him go. It's like, cool. Had the best of intentions, and that always ends up being the biggest issue in this. I mean, everyone's human, everyone's flawed, everyone tries to do the right thing, but it always comes from the place of kind of, some selfishness of like, cool, you get to make these unilateral decisions that end up affecting everyone. That ends up being kind of the main through line with like, the 1988 squad, but we'll circle back to them later. But first and foremost, there is a stampede of buffalo nearby, and the clearing group has been trying to fortify and kind of, make into a home because it's like, cool, have no idea when we're actually going home, so we need to make this a better, like, home away from home until, we find out more about, our circumstances changing. And I think it's so interesting that this situation has shifted to Lucas kind of become the leader. Not the character you would have expected. I mean, I guess arguably it's like Eve. I mean, I don't even, like, in retrospect, I'm like, did Eve really even do the leadership thing? I mean, it's kind of a democracy, but I'm also like, I know for the outside perspective, it's like, yeah, a lot of the, like, Eve and them kind of made, once again, Eve and Sam and them kind of made a lot of, once again, unilateral decisions. It's like that, once again, it's that conversation that I think Judah kind of brings it up. It's like, yeah, none of like the main characters are here. Like, it was almost like a meta conversation he brought up previously. But yeah, Luke is stepping up because of Veronica. And he brings that up to Scott about like, they kissed and everything. And she's also the main motivation for why he wants to do that. He's like, he wants to, I don't know, like take a stand, and make it like, ever since his mom died, he's kind of been spiraling a little bit, and he wants to be a good person, the person that Veronica sees him as. It he doesn't really see, but Scott's like, no, you can be a jerk sometimes and stuff like that, but you're the jerk I'm willing to follow. And I'm like, nice compliment, Scott. But it's like, yeah, like he wants to be a better person. He wanted to become a better person for his mom, and now having someone else kind of see him as that better person like Veronica, he wants to live up to those expectations, so he wants to help out. So initially the plan was like, hey, we're gathering up all this tar. Let's use it to light a fire around the clearing so that when the buffalo do head our way, because they eventually will, because they're already kind of a little spooked, they're a little on edge because of the changing in the weather, which is happening because a sinkhole is open, an aurora is happening. So let's divert them, which it works a little bit. Problem is, said sinkhole is connected to the Santa Monica and large ocean nearby, so it's like pulling that in, and now, it's putting out the fire they started. Sadly, that sinkhole didn't get closed fast enough, so that led to, alright, I'm like, man, you're kind of screwed in that department. Luckily, Scott came up with the idea, like, cool, let's divert them with sound now. And luckily they did. They sent the whole stampede the other way, everyone banging, honking their horns, and it's like, yo, Lucas came out to be the hero this day, also having to delegate too, because it's like, yeah, there's the guy who's, there's the guy, like Virgil was kind of talking to the guy that they refer to as like Wyatt, that's his name, he's the guy that's in construction and stuff, and it's like, I think someone called him Bill the Builder or something like that. But yeah, I had to delegate between someone being like, oh, should we listen to this guy? Should we not? It's like, nah, let's listen to Wyatt. He's this construction guy. If he says we should do something, we should do it. But he's not really into the whole delegating thing. And he doesn't believe in himself. But Scott was like, come on, man, believe in yourself. And now he kind of does. So that's definitely going to be interesting. Once again, I even love him and Scott, like, dabbing each other up the way they did. I'm like, I really love that that's become a good friendship like that. That's actually pretty dope. And I also love that Scott's like, hey, like, essentially my best friend Josh is back too. So that's pretty neat. Josh did inform, the entire group doesn't know this, but we know Lucas knows, Ty knows, and Scott knows. But I mean, what they know and what actually is going to be different. I mean, once again, it's still going to be that thing of, wait, you were going to make a unilateral decision to leave us here, trapped here? It's like, yeah, but, that's kind of a moot point at this point to some extent, so we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out next episode with some of those unilateral decisions, but we'll kind of have to we'll get to that soon enough. Next thing I want to talk about is Ella, Lily, and Veronica, and Veronica wanting to move past the past. She got rid of everything that reminded her of Aaron. That man took away so much of their lives. Also, it's also, Veronica struggles with, like, once again, it's like he kind of, in her mind, it's like she, I think, still struggles with the fact is of a reminder of him is just, well, a reminder of the life that was taken from her, but also like the life that ended up shaping her into who she is. She kind of sees herself as a bad person. So I think that's even more reason why she wants to leave Aaron behind. She wants to become a better person herself. So I think that's the parallel between her and Lucas in that regard. And Ella's saying, like, right, it's not going to just be the easiest thing to kind of forget. And they went to go find some materials so that Ella could make a ring for Ty, who proposed to Para. And then there in the cave, they find what we find out later. Well, what we knew, it's like, oh, these are this is the tree, the flowers that Gavin saw. But what was interesting, though, because like Veronica's like, no way. And her and Ella see it's like, these are flowers that Aaron made, I think, Ella draw or something. You're like, wait, how did he... That's the wild thing. And this is something I brought up last episode, too. It's like, how is Gavin having a vision? And it's also not, and I don't know whether it's just like they're representing it in a very different way this season, because his visions always had kind of that, like, they had that kind of like green tintish filter to it in the first season, but that was any time he was having visions from his time as Isaiah. So now the question is, and the fact is, when we got that vision at the end of last episode, it didn't have that same coloration to it. It still doesn't. So is that just them stylizing it differently as they're not representing it in the same way? Or is that supposed to signify it is a completely different circumstance? Because the visions had him and Ella, the visions were always just memory. I'm trying to remember, I think Ella's were, when her memories as Lily were exactly like that, I think, if I remember correctly. So it's like, whoa, then what is up with this? And how is it that Aaron made her draw something that's like, because Ella's like, yeah, I thought it was something that came from his head, but it's like, if it's not, there's more going on here. I'm like, yeah, because even Gavin's vision, like, the visions are supposed to be memories. So does that mean Aaron was here? Are we in some, like, timey-wiminess of something's off there? Like, that's really interesting of like, wait, what? Especially because it's not like a key character. He was a character that was like immediately killed in the first episode by an animal. So it's wild to be like, oh yeah, there's also significance there because there is some overarching, there's something there. And I just can't wrap my head around what that could be. Because I'm like, I guess arguably maybe you can make the moment possible. I was like, no, well, now I'm sitting here. Not unless he was from the Lazarus Project. I'm so stupid. That seems like that might be the most logical answer. I mean, obviously everyone related to the Lazarus Project is here in 2000 BC, so he probably went back in time, back in time from where they're originally from, but forward in time from, 10,000 BC. So, because even Ella was like, maybe us being here wasn't an accident. Maybe it's also Veronica and Ella were chosen for a reason. Like, that's what Ella's kind of getting at, but Veronica doesn't want to deal with that. But I'm like, I was like, that's the only explanation of, like, because I was about to say, like, how else, he's kind of once again, it's like, it's interesting deciding to make that character who was kind of like, yo, he's a terrible person, that's all but, I mean, they still gave him a role in the regard of like, yeah, he wasn't around anymore, but still knowing that he kidnapped Veronica and Lily. And now you add in the fact is like, he's potentially with the Lazarus Project. So once again, did he know something from the future? Are they like significant in some regard? So where Veronica's like, oh, I chose Ella/Lily, but maybe he already had it in his mind. I mean, maybe that's also supposed to be indicative of not everyone part of the Lazarus Project is a good person for him to have done that. I mean, maybe in some twisted way, what he had to leave behind in the future, maybe he was trying to recapture that. He just went about it the most terrible way. I don't know. But that seems like that might be where that could be heading. That feels like that's currently the only explanation for the Aaron thing, but that's really interesting if that's the case. I'm curious to kind of find out the reasoning behind that, you know. I mean, because it was only like a couple years prior. Well, because I was about to say, like, we know that there's the one in the Mojave that was like 3 years prior. I mean, there's no telling like how long he had been there. That's also another element to all of this. Like, he could have been there a lot longer. We have no idea like how long like Aaron could have been there or something like that. But it's like, yeah, those apparently based on what James said, those flowers only grow specifically in caves, but in this time period. So that does kind of solidify like, right, he has to have been part of the Lazarus Project. Either way, the other element to this episode also is, once again, the 88 team, which obviously you have Izzy and Gavin off on their own, because they were meant to go to the tower to get Gavin inside so he can activate the system, allowing his mother access to it to upload her virus. But, you know, there's complications on multiple fronts. The fact of the matter is, Gavin ended up having to tell Izzy the truth about it, which I'm like, right, there's no more secrets. We're supposed to be in this together as a family. This is supposed to be a new chapter, a new beginning for them. But he ended up having it because Izzy's like, right, like, I hope things would get better, hope things would be different, but I guess they're not. And he tells her the truth about what he saw, but it's like, right, we can change that. But the problem is, Izzy found out those flowers only grow here, once again, in 10,000 BC. So it means that whatever happens to Eve happens here. So the best way to make it so that Eve isn't here for that to happen is to change the future, is to, you know, get us all back to the original time, which is interesting and considering, hey, Sam wanted to do that, and even he made a very valid point of like, okay, Eve, it's easy for you to say like, oh, like we should all stay here. It's like your entire family is here. I mean, it's like, right, you've got Gavin, you've got both of your children here, so you have less motivation. I mean, everyone you want to go back too. No one wants to get stuck here, but you're a little more okay with it than anyone else, and she knows she couldn't fight Sam on that because for him, it's like, right, he still has a wife and son back at home, and he's not, and it's not even about him, it's about Riley being separated from her mom and her brother. So for him, he'll make any sacrifice as long as it means his daughter's okay. So he's all about trying to stop it. And I love that Eve's like, the moment he couldn't find the virus on Gavin's mom, I figured, I was like, oh, Eve had to give her the heads up, which turns out to be the case because she saw that look on Sam's face. She knew like Sam wasn't going to let that go without a fight. And yeah, he tried to disrupt the whole thing by himself. I mean, even Riley didn't agree with it because it's like, right, I get it. I want to go home too. But the fact of the matter is, the whole point we came back here for was to save lives, you know? So, which I also thought, like, at the very least, wait till the machine got to 85%, because it at 85% would at least close the Santa Monica sinkhole. So there's that. Because I was also like, not thinking too clearly, because if at the very least, if you don't stop the Santa Monica sinkhole, that ends up killing you and you Marty McFly, your daughter, and your son out of existence. So there's that. I don't think Sam was thinking clearly on that front. So there's that. But also, it's, you know, at the bare minimum, knocking it off course at like 85%, it's still a thing of you need to pull the trigger for the last 15%, because if you don't, you were never going to get another shot at this. So this is supposed to be their opportunity. But yeah, James got to Gavin because, once again, that selfishness of, and the irony is, Sam was asked to stop because like so many people's lives are in danger, and now, and he finally agreed and listened to Riley and Eve, and now it's like, oh, Gavin wanting to protect his wife ended up, you know, making the decision right there at the last percent, because once again, you know, if he had told, I mean, that's also the sad thing about, because he told Izzy the truth, it led to her being like, no, Dad, like, we need to find a way to save Mom. It still would have probably been there in the back of his mind, but at the very least, well, because if Izzy would have never known to what to look out for, Gavin would have never found out. So it's like, if he had never told her, this situation wouldn't have happened and things would have played out the way they ended up playing out, right? So for his vision to be what it is, it still has to be like a timey-wimey thing of it's already happened. But it's like, and I'm wondering the explanation for that, because I was like, once again, it's like going back to it, it's like, those are visions. So it had to have already happened. So I guess maybe on some level, Gavin already lost Eve and tried to time travel to fix and change things. And maybe things have changed this time around. It's just they're not aware of it. Because we still don't know. It seems like, once again, the only reason why Isaiah and Lily forgot about everything, because it was like a traumatic experience. They were both children at the time. Like, because no one else has had memory loss issues upon time traveling. At least not we were aware of. It only seems like Isaiah and Lily had that issue. Once again, they were children, so maybe that's a little more. Also, the argument could be like, well, time travel has gotten a little more. Well, no, because that was later time travel too. Because I was about to say, James is making the whole point that he's stabilizing these more. He's like, trust me, because this is about saving the future. But in an attempt to save the future, you're going to make a couple sacrifices along the way. But it's like, hey, the ends justify the mean. We're saving humanity in the future type of thing. But it's like, yeah, but still, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what ends up being the fallout of all of this. Because it's like, once again, you're making a unilateral decision of, oh, we're going to trap everyone here. Oh, making a unilateral decision on Sam's part. I want to stop this. Fine. I won't stop it. Oh, unilateral decision on Gavin's part to do it just because of Eve. And now it's like, once again, that I mean, it's understandable. You're right. You have this noble reason why you're doing it, but it's also a very selfish reason. Everyone has a selfish reason because everyone's human. So, that just being selfish is part of that, just part of the human experience of, like, kind of protecting what you care about most. And, I mean, especially after everything they've been through, it's like, right, I'm not about to lose Eve now after going through so much for us to finally be back together to reunite our family. So it's going to be interesting to see where everything goes. Because James kind of did let his guard down because this is Gavin's legacy. It's obviously his children's legacy as well. But it's like, right, this is a family thing, and obviously family means a lot to him. So he probably won't be as trusting towards Gavin, but Gavin making this decision and him being like, oh, I can help you. I'm like, maybe he'll give Gavin some explanation about the vision, like, and giving him like clarity about it. Him and the person that works beside him is kind of loyal to him. It's like, okay, she said, like, right, he saw something in me and he gave me a chance. So she has undying loyalty towards him. They kind of looked at each other the moment Gavin mentioned the vision. So I don't know whether that's just oh man, that percentage is getting higher. We're getting nervous. Let's try and talk him down, talk him off this ledge of destroying all that you've been working on. Because it's kind of like the key to saving humanity type of thing. Or maybe so I might be reading too much into it. I don't know whether, like I said, don't know if that's, oh my God, like we got to protect this time travel work, or it's like, wait, he said vision? Like, we'll have to wait till next episode to see whether or not that's any, if we get any clarity on that. We also had things kind of end badly with Ty as his conditions continuing to get worse. So the fact is the tower might be one of the few places that could potentially treat him. I mean, we have no telling. Well, because they did introduce that element of like, cool, Gavin got his arm taken care of, so it's potential, like, they have future technology, so they could help Ty, but that's also probably like well, what are they going to want in return type of thing. I scratch your back, you scratch mine type of thing, so it's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all this ends up taking us going forward to the next episode, which it also dropped. I wasn't aware this was going to be a back-to-back episode thing, but apparently episode 9 is also out, so I'm going to watch that after I end this recording. So very excited to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.